This is WGBB AM 1240 and W240 DF FM 95.9 Freeport, New York.
The views expressed in the following program do not necessarily represent those of the staff, management, or owners of WGBB.
It is time for Streetwise with former chief of the New York City Sheriff's Department, former chief of the Seagate Police Department, retired New York City detective, Time Warner Public Access Media Award, Joe Franklin Super Excellence in Broadcasting Memory Lane Award, New York Veteran Police Association Streetwise production, host of Streetwise, Mr. Lou Telano.
Good evening and welcome back to Streetwise. My guest this evening, great guest by the way, but they all are. But sometimes I have someone, I got to say, it's a little more exceptional only because of what he's done in life. Not everybody has done what my guest has done in life. He's as a young guy, I think he was 20 years old. He was in Vietnam. He was a Port Authority police right here in New York State, which means you're a police officer in New Jersey and state of New York. He was in New York City, New York City's finest. And then somehow he wound up in jail. Okay, as a correction officer, state prison, upstate. I want to welcome. Oh, by the way, he's a great author. He's got two of the books they have on display. If you're on live stream, you can see. I couldn't find the other couple of books that he did send me. Other great books as well. True Blue and Latin Blues, and then his books actually a trilogy talks about his lifestyle. And let me get him on the show. What am I talking about? I want to welcome Joe Sanchez. Thank you for being the guest on Streetwise.
Tonto, how you doing?
Tonto, very good. You know what the problem with that is, Joe? What does Tonto mean in Espanol?
Well, Tonto in Spanish means dummy. But,
I know.
Right.
But yes.
I want to comment
yes.
you and on your former partner, John Seppe. God bless his soul.
Thank you.
For being the super cops that you guys were back in the day. Those were tough days. Those were days when cops were respected more than they are today. Of course, it was a dangerous job, but when you walked the beat, people respected us,
Right.
And it was, I never met one cop that ever told me, I hate coming to work. I mean, they loved it. They loved it because they got respect, even though they had to deal with the bad guys out in the street. Even the bad guys respected the cops. And of course, when the Black Panthers and Black Liberation Army came about, I mean, it changed a lot.
Hey, FALN too was around.
FALN, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the FALN. But, no, I want to commend you on that. And,
thank you, appreciate it.
I know you guys were super cops. I know that.
Well, I feel good talking to another super cop. So
I appreciate that.
So what you just commented on is so true. Why do you? What's the breakdown? Now we had all these dangerous people that we just mentioned, just walking a beat. Well, you and I both worked, in those same type of areas. What happened? What's the change now where cops get disrespected? They get objects thrown at them. It was horrible to watch cops walking by and having water poured on them. What has changed since, I'm going to say, our time and today in regard to police work, Joe Sanchez?
Politics.
Very
the cops
good.
do not have the support of the politicians. And it's changed a lot. And if I may say so, the left-wing liberals have not helped us. Haven't helped the law enforcement officers who are out there serving and protecting. It's so sad, but until that changes, things are going to be pretty bad. And I hope it does change.
Well, what I missed, folks, I was going to bring it up. I was going to actually should say in the beginning, I have to thank Joe Sanchez for his service in the military during Vietnam, and then he goes back to Vietnam up in Fort Apache or whatever, So his whole life. Again, folks, we have to thank him for his service. But I got to, Joe, politics, and it's what I noticed. Since Mayor Bill de Blasio, speaking of politics, has been in office, 7 police officers were murdered in the line of duty. Since he's been in, and he's got, another 2 years to go, I think, in New York City. And what about the other day? The 9th police officer committing suicide. We've never seen that in our time. I hate to say this, folks, but I think it's the atmosphere pretty much created by Mayor Bill de Blasio. I don't know your thoughts on that, Joe. If I do see,
it's so true. It's so true. This man does not care for law enforcement officers, and as we've heard, he's warned his son that whenever he out there in the street walking about, if he sees a police officer or whatever, try to avoid a police officer because you don't want to be hurt. That's ridiculous. We were taught as children, if you have a problem, you walk towards the police officer.
Very good.
You know, and that's not what this mayor is preaching. I mean, this mayor has really hurt law enforcement, and my good friend Bo Dietl has commented on that, as you know.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Bo was great. Bo, of course, Bo was here. I think 2 times. I forget now. You know, so
yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So a good guy. Speaking of guys that did a great job doing our time, and but your books are very interesting, folks. By the way, there's a couple of True Blue books out there. Joe, tell us the difference so they don't get confused, so they can find your True Blue book.
Right. David Baldacci has a book called True Blue. It's fiction. It's based on a police officer, I believe, from the state of Washington, if I remember right. And it's about a female cop that gets jammed up, goes to prison, comes out, and then tries to help her sister, who also is in law enforcement. But it's fiction. It's fiction. And then you have another True Blue by Sutton. He's a retired sergeant, I believe, a lieutenant from Vegas. And he wrote a book, True Blue, but he interviews police officers, and he tells their story, whether they're funny or what. But then I remember also there's another book by 2 detectives, retired detectives in the NYPD called True Blue. But mine is the one that has a subtitle, True Blue, A Tale of the Enemy Within. That's how you find my book.
Right. Folks, the book, a little controversy to police officers as well. Joe has a story which we really can't talk about it. You know, we had a little issue, not a big issue, within the job itself. The job, you know how people say, well, what do you think of the job being a cop in the city of New York? And I say, it's like a love-hate relationship. You actually could hate it, but then you really love it. And a moment ago, Joe Sanchez was saying, you loved going to work, you enjoyed the job. But the job is also dangerous politically within. And, I just want to,
yes, it is, because you may love the job, but don't expect the job to love you back.
Well, that's true. That's why it's a love-hate. You know, you just can't, you pretty much, how do I say this? Most times you're on your own, It's just, aside from walking alone, I mean, if you have an issue or get jammed up, or something where you have a problem, you look around and you're in the locker room standing by yourself, And,
right.
And that's...
But what a wonderful job that was. I was a Port Authority police officer. I enjoyed that job. It's a great job. But working the streets in New York, I loved it. I don't care. When I was on patrol by myself, I loved it. I didn't need a partner. I knew how to handle myself. If I needed backup, of course, I called for assistance. But what a job. I mean, walking the streets, walking into stores, making sure things were okay. There's not a better job that you can find, that you can learn so much, and see so much. The NYPD was, I would have to say, as much as I love the Port Authority Police, the NYPD was the best job I ever had. I learned so much.
Except the opposite now. Cops want to leave who are in the NYPD, want to leave for the Port Authority Police. I'm sure you're aware of that. Or the MTA Police, obviously Nassau and Suffolk County Police on Long Island. Cops in New York City, if they have an opportunity to leave, they leave. It's one time you'd work for less money, and I hate to say this, you'd go in 1 day a week for nothing if you could, if you could afford it. That's how much we love the business. But today they want to leave now today, Joe.
Right. Well, when I was in the Port Authority Police, I mean, they had the force was 1,300. I believe they have 1,800 now. And it's a job that, when you take the exam, it's not a civil service type of a job. It's either you pass or fail, and then it depends how high you score. And they don't give you your score. They don't tell you. As far as I know, they never told me my score. You either pass or fail. But guys were when I was a Port Authority cop, they were leaving for the NYPD.
I know.
And But now the Port Authority, it's a good-paying job. You can be a cop in Jersey, live in Jersey. It pays better than the NYPD. It's a good job. But my thing was, I'm a grunt. I was a grunt in Vietnam, and I wanted the action. I wanted back into the streets. It was the adrenaline. I loved the streets, and that's why I left the Port Authority. But like I said, it was also a great job. I'm proud to have been a Port Authority police officer.
Folks, when he meant he was a grunt, that means he liked, which we all did. How do I say it? You like the action, pretty much.
Right. I was an infantryman. I was in the bush. I was in the bush, and rough times at times, humping the hills looking for Charlie. Right. And but I lost quite a few friends. I was with the 5th to the 7th, First Cav Division, A Company, and I got transferred to the 2nd and 7th, D Company, where I got wounded on my 20th birthday. And I almost lost my life on January 16th, 1967, and I was hit with a few of my friends also because they were lobbing grenades at us, and small armed, we had a skirmish, but it wasn't easy. But I'll never regret it. I served my country. I'm a Puerto Rican American, proud to be one, and as a Puerto Rican, I speak up for those who are Puerto Ricans who also fought in all the wars for our country. We are American citizens, and proud to be.
Yeah, there was a difference. Of course, Joe, I got a kick out of Joe. Joe says when he was a kid, he lived all over. But he did spend some good years, I would say good years, and where I come from, the New York's Lower East Side. And like Richie Ornstein, who's in the green room from the Lower East Side, will tell you, we got along great together. The Puerto Ricans and the American kids, I got to say American kids for lack of another definition, because the American kids, the Irish and the Italians and the Jewish kids didn't speak Espanol. Right. So that was the only difference. But it was a great mixture and a great atmosphere. So.
Right. I lived when I arrived from Puerto Rico, with my family, 51, 52, we lived on Attorney Street in the Lower East Side, and then we moved to 2nd Street between A and B. My father was a superintendent of 3 buildings. And then when my mother went her way, and my father was always there. I mean, my father, he never left. We went to the rodeo, circus, you name it, my father was always there. A great man, loved us dearly. And but from 2nd Street, we moved to Monroe Street. You moved back.
You moved back to lower East Side.
Yeah, 2 blocks away from the Manhattan Bridge, and then we moved to the across the street from the Amsterdam Projects on 62nd Street and Amsterdam Avenue, where the Lincoln Center now is at.
Yeah.
And of course, in 1958, we were forced to move out because they were about to bring down the building so they can build the Lincoln Center.
Yes.
And we were relocated to the South Bronx. So we made our move to the South Bronx, and I went to 2 different junior high schools. I went to Samuel Gompers to be a mechanic, and I said after a year, no, that's not for me. So I transferred to Theodore Roosevelt, where I graduated in 1965. And a few months later, I pushed my draft and went into the service. I for some reason, like I told Bo Dietl, I tried to be a Marine, I tried to be in the Navy, I tried to be in the Air Force, and I was passing the exams that they give you at the recruiting station there. But when I went to Whitehall Street about 3 o'clock, they always call my name and send me home. I don't know. Maybe it had to do for the fact that when I was 11 years old, I got arrested for being with 2 older kids trying to probably open a parking meter. But eventually somebody told me, hey, go push your draft. So at the age of 18, I went to my local board and it says, I want to be drafted. So the lady came over to me, showed me this big old book. There was my name. She said, sign here. And I said, when do I leave? She said, you'll be notified. And then I got the letter with 1 token from President Johnson to report to Whitehall for the induction center. I never came home. It took me 8 months before I came home because I had no money to get back home. And came home and did my 30 days, and I left for Vietnam. That's how I got into the service.
You brought
I never
back
gave
memories.
Up. I'm a very tenacious guy.
They give you a token. That's so
that was
there.
it. The one way.
One way.
Token.
One way
that
token.
was it.
Whitehall, folks, is the street downtown where, if you were in New York, that's where you reported if you wanted to join the service. During those years, and you could pretty much pick your service at that time. So
right. Well, even guys that got drafted thinking they were going to go to the Army, when they started calling names, they would say Navy. What? I'm not going to. No, Navy, Marines. Some guys who thought they were going to the Army wound up as Marines.
Yeah, I know. You wanted to be a mechanic. They made you a cook. I know.
Yep. But again, I was 18 years old, very naive to the world, and I sent to Colorado and trained in Colorado. And when I went up in Vietnam, I was a sky trooper. I enjoyed it, getting on the helicopters and go into battle. And it was scary at times, but if I had to do it again, I'd do it again.
Well, would you? I got to ask you this.
Happen the way they do.
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
Yeah, I got to ask you this. Would you do it again? You had some issues, folks. I'm not going to go into the issues with Joe Sanchez. Those issues that you had, that you got involved in. Obviously, we both talked about it before we went on the show. We're not going to discuss it, but you left the job. Aside from those issues, we weren't the greatest, but you got back on your feet, which is thank God. And you're a strong believer in the man upstairs, which I like. So it did help you. So would you do it again? I don't want to go into elaborate or discuss the problems. If it is a problem, I just want. But what you went through, was it worth it? On your whole life story, you got it in books. How do I say this? Was it worth going what you went through? I'm not talking about Vietnam, which you went through hell. I'm talking about the hell you went on through on the job.
Would I do it again?
Yes.
I would do it again, yes, but I might. I would do it a little different. Certain things I would do definitely different. Okay, I think I exposed myself too much, and I never hurt a cop. I never hurt a cop. I enjoy working with good cops. There's certain things I saw. I minded my own business, and I made sure that these guys understood this is the way I work. I try to. I don't want to break the law. But yes, there's certain things I would do different. And the fact that, listen, God works in a mysterious way, okay? I'm better off with what I'm receiving from the government than I would have been receiving from the NYPD. And I was on the list to be a sergeant. They took me off the list because they did not invite me back to the NYPD. But I was on the list to be a sergeant. Who knows what might have happened to me, or I might have taken the example for a lieutenant and gone further up. But the fact that God has taken care of me, I was able to become a New York State correction officer. Yeah. I was able to work at Sing Sing. I worked behind the wall. It was an experience for me. I enjoyed it. I got to see guys I locked up. It was a high for me. Okay, I knew what I was getting into. I was assaulted 4 times, and Coxsackie was almost killed, stabbed, saving an inmate's life. But God was watching over me. But it came to a point where I told my wife, I can't do this. Sooner or later they're going to get me. But I did leave the Department of Correction. I moved to Florida. The VA has taken good care of me. When I got home from Vietnam, I was getting 40% for my wounds, and it was enough. It was extra money, and it helped me out a lot. The fact that when I moved to Florida, I had some other issues. We all have PTSD. I had PTSD from a long time ago, plus with the NYPD. But the government, VA, has been very good to me. They keep things very confidential. They talk to you, and they did help me more than the NYPD. That helped me, yes, because back then I needed help. I needed to feed my family. And the VA was able to counsel me, take it easy, we'll help you any way we can. So I owe them a lot. But believe me, I'm much better off. I got a better pension than I would have ever had. And the fact that I saw what it was like working behind the wall, and the thrill that I got when I met guys I locked up, thought I was actually in prison doing time, I really surprised them. And it wasn't easy. I'm not a big guy, but you don't have to be a big guy, even as a cop. It's body language. You got to know what to look for. The bad guy smells you. He can see with you're a big guy, small guy. He can sense this cop is.
They smell you.
He knows what he's doing. Let me be more careful. So no, it was a blessing in disguise. I would do it again. Yes.
You would. Okay, folks. You know what I'm going to do something different because I know. People wanted to ask Joe so many questions. You know, we had a little issues with the phones here, so you can't call in. I'm going to give you a number. Please text. Do not call this number if you want to ask Joe Sanchez a question. I'm going to give you a text phone number, 914-707-9777. That's 914-707-9777. Please text me a message. Just give me your name and your question, and could ask Joe any questions you might want to ask him. 914-707-9777. Because I'm sure I've got a big response when Joe. I got a big response when I had sent out to social media that you were going to be my guest. So okay. I just want you to know that with all your let's talk about your books. How did a guy like you said, you moved all over Manhattan, a lot on the East Side. There was some little, not big one, thank God. Your dad was around, like you said.
Always around. Never. It's like he never left.
Well, that's what you know. I was talking about that last week in regard to the mass shooters. And I was talking to this forensic clinical psychologist, Dr. John Huber, and I told him, look, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is, I find the common denominator. I do, Lou Telano does, that
the father figure.
Exactly right. There was no father in the house, just like you said, or a dysfunctional family. But mostly, like you just said, they lacked the father figure. And he says, absolutely. Right. So we got to thank God, because friends of mine went to the left when I went to the right, because they had no father figure. I seen that in the Lower East Side. They were living with their grandma, and those guys got in trouble. I was able to save one guy by my mother and father. He got thrown. His grandmother threw him out. So where does he go? You know where he's going to go. He's going to do what he has to do to survive. He lived with me for a few years, and that straightened his ass out. Otherwise you would be watching him up there in Sing Sing.
Right.
And that's our choice as kids. Joe, I say you wound up in jail, but how'd you wind up in jail? As an officer. But so we had that choice. We had that choice to which way and you did the right thing. And but you didn't.
Right. Well,
yes.
I became a mailman. I took the exam and I was a mailman up in Rockland County. And even when I was delivering the mail, I came up across 2 or 3 drug dealers that worked in Washington Heights that were up there, and they saw me delivering the mail. And all I had now for protection, if they wanted to do anything, but I always treated these guys when I locked them up. I had no issue, but all I had was my dog spray. That's all I had.
Yeah.
If I had, I no longer carried a gun. And after 3 years, I said, gee, I'd like to get back into law enforcement. So I took the exam to become a New York State Correction Officer, and graduated from Harriman Academy. And at age 42, I was sent to Sing Sing. And I couldn't wait to go behind the wall. Before you go behind the wall, they give you 3 days when you graduate.
Yeah.
When you graduated, 3 days orientation. I said, I don't need this. I want to go behind the wall. So once I got behind the wall and went to A block, hot. This was July. It was hot. And I said, Maron.
What jail was that, Joe?
That was in 89.
No, I mean, what jail? What jail was that?
Oh, Sing Sing. This was
up in Sing Sing, Austin, folks.
Yeah, I went to Kentucky when I moved up to Catskill. Kentucky, I was almost stabbed. I was almost killed in Kentucky. But Sing Sing was something else, and I couldn't wait to see where they kept the electric chair, the death house.
Right.
And I remember walking in there, and it's they use it now for training. It's vocational school.
Yes.
And I asked one of the COG, where was the electric chair that I used to see in the movies, especially with James Cagney and
exactly.
with dirty pieces, And the guy at the CEO says, "You're standing right there. This is it." I said, "Wow." And
wow.
Sing Sing was a good experience. I was assaulted 4 times, almost set up 4 times.
Wow.
But the department knew what was going on because these were inmates that I had locked up, and I told other inmates to get this guy. And can I tell you a fast story? Can I tell you a real fast
we got plenty of time, Joe. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I remember I was working at Tapan. Tapan, it's down the hill. Up the hill is the maximum security, and I was working the dorms. And I'm responsible on my floor. I was responsible for 72 inmates. And an officer comes to relieve me and says, "Hey, Sanchez, they want to see you down in the office." So as I'm walking down the staircase, I hear a guy yelling, "That mother so-and-so, Sanchez, he's the one that locked me up," et cetera. He started cursing. I hear, and I felt hurt. I said, "Who can that be?" So I went down to the office, did what I had to. As I go back up to relieve the officer that relieved me, and I tell him, "Listen, before you leave, who's the inmate that was making all the noise and cursing?" He says, "Cube number so-and-so." So he leaves, so I call the inmate. It was the Dominican guy. And sure enough, as he comes over, I recognized him. And I says, I told him in Spanish. I says, "I heard you call me a mother so-and-so, that I'm the one that locked you up." And, he was in shock now. He couldn't say a word because I'm the CO. He's got to behave. If not, he goes back to Hill. I'll send him back. I'll write him a ticket up to the regular cells because in the medium, you got less than 3 years to go. Behave yourself. You can cook there. It's a little different than being locked up in the cell.
Right.
And if you break the rules, you go up the hill.
Go back.
So I told him, "I do remember you." And then I asked all the inmates. I said, "By the guy, hey, you guys want to hear how I locked him up?" Yeah. See, it was showtime. It was showtime.
They love it.
Time to act. So I told my story. I remember you. I remember you with 2 other guys on Broadway as my partner, Herman Velez, and I are in Sector, we usually work Sector George. We were in Sector Adam. We had just turned out for a 12 to 8 tour. As we're cruising down, I'm driving. I see this guy and 2 other guys flagging a gypsy cab. And I immediately told Herman, "You see those 3 guys there? Just before they got into the gypsy cab. These are the guys that I heard. Okay, I got a tip that they're going and waiting for people to come out of the bars, guys coming out of the bars, following them home or wherever they can grab them.
Mug them.
They're not only mugging them, they're beating them up."
Whoa.
So I left it like that. So with about 3 o'clock in the morning, I told Herman, and Herman told me, "Hey, let's go up to Sector George and see if we can get some donuts and coffee." So we leave the sector. As we're up there, we hear some shots fired, and we notify Central, and Central wants to know if we need back. I said, "No, we don't know exactly what we have. We'll notify you." As we turn into a particular block, I see a guy waving us over in front of the building. So we're careful. I got 2 guns. Herman carries 2 guns. I carry 2 pairs of handcuffs. But I don't know who this guy is. So we cautiously approach the guy with our guns ready. It's the superintendent of this tenement. He tells us that there are 3 guys that he saw running into the building and are downstairs in the basement. So we go down. So we go downstairs to the basement, and there was a special compartment where they have bicycles or whatever for the tenants. And to keep their equipment or whatever. So we hear a noise, and of course we tell these people not in a nice way, come out of there or we're going to,
start shooting. You did that.
Yeah.
I know
you know how it is. You know how you
exactly.
the police talk.
Yep.
Yeah. So the 3 guys that we saw waving the flagging on the gypsy cab, there they are.
Right.
So Herman searches while I back off. We both don't search because that's how you can get killed. He searches. I watch. Boom. We cuff him. And we don't know what we have yet. So I notify Central. I said, "Any job came over there yet that we missed?" Yeah, it was Sector Eddie's at the Columbia Presbyterian Hospital with a victim who said that he left the bar and he was attacked by 3 individuals and he took a good beating. So Sector Eddie, Charlie Whitfield, God bless his soul, I used to work with Charlie, over the radio, he asked me, "Joe, where you're at?" So I tell him. He comes over, and when he's downstairs in the basement with us, I say, "Hey, Charlie, what did they take?" "Joe, what did they do?" "Joe, they beat him pretty bad. I mean, they closed his eye. They ripped him off, and they took his wristwatch." As soon as he said wristwatch, the guy that's in prison now, I hear something drop behind him, and it's a wristwatch. It's a wristwatch. I pick it up, and I tell him, "Is this yours?" He says, "That's not mine." "Well, whose is it?" So he says, or maybe he got nasty with me. So, I had to, adjudicate matters in a nice way with him. So now we're back. We got him. So now we're back at Sing Sing, okay, 1989, and I tell them, now we got a situation here. Now the inmates know how I was able to lock up these guys with my partner Herman. And now I tell them, now we got a serious situation here. I locked you up. You're in the same prison I'm in. Okay, we both can't be here. Okay, so get back to your cube because I'm going to write you up because you're going to get transferred right now. Get ready for the draft. Stop packing. By the time I finish my report, I know you live in Washington Heights. I know it's only, 45, 50 minutes, less than an hour for your family to come and see you every weekend or wherever. By the time I write this ticket, I'm going to make sure they transfer you to the Canadian border, Clinton.
Right.
You understand? Now, get back into your cube. He went back to his cube, and as now you got to act. You can't get into a shouting match with these guys. You got to know what you're doing. You write a good ticket, they respect you. As I start, I'm writing, he says, Officer Sanchez, can I please speak to you? I said, step forward. Please don't transfer me. I promise you I will never disrespect you again. Please don't transfer me. So I look at all the inmates. I said, what do you think, guys? Yeah, give him a break, CO. Give him a break. I says, okay, next time I hear you talking bad about me, if I hear anything, you're out of here. I never had a problem with this inmate. That's how I, handle that situation.
Yeah, you write them up.
That's it.
You write them up.
That's it.
Yeah.
I could have got him transferred because this guy said I locked him up and he's in the prison.
That's amazing. I just want to.
But these are one of the inmates, and I met many that I had locked up, and the word was out they were going to shank me. So, but I said, well, I would tell the inmate, really, well, they're getting online because there's a lot of guys waiting to do that, and I laughed it off. That's it. I laughed it off, and I would tell one inmate was leaving back to Washington Heights. He did his time. I said, when you get back to Washington Heights, you tell him Joe Sanchez is at Sing Sing.
Waiting for you. And you're waiting for him, right? You're waiting for him. I know.
Laugh about it.
Now, write up, folks, they get a complaint, because I was in city correction for 6 years.
I know you were. I know.
But we used to write up, give them a complaint, But I've got those threats, too. They especially if you work in a dorm like you did. If you're walking through a dorm, it's not a cell, folks. They're sleeping in bunks. And they threaten you with a blanket job. That means they throw a blanket on your head. And then you don't know who's who, or you can't. Yeah. So, Joe, I know you went through that, so it wasn't. When I first got there, I started wearing my bulletproof vest because the threat was that they were going to stab me, and it was just too hot. I said, I can't. I still have my bulletproof vest from the NYPD. I said, I can't do this. It's too hot here. So I took it off. I said, they're going to shank me. They're going to shank me. But they did. A lot of them did respect me. I had no problem with them. It was just a little cruel. Well, I can tell the story. But they're in your books. Let's promote your books so people could read it. So that was we're talking about. Yeah, what's the books do you use besides the True Blue?
Well, True Blue just
pretty much
what I'm going into Sing Sing. Going into Sing Sing. Okay, I'm going into Sing Sing. If I ever get a movie done, then we'll go into I'll start writing about how it was as a former police officer to go into the belly of the beast, inside the belly of the beast,
right,
and meet up with guys. I met up with car killers. I met Louis Velez, who killed Glover and Reddy. Okay, I spoke to Louis. He told me how he did it. Okay.
Yeah, and let's not go into details. Too gruesome. I don't want the people to hear what. Yeah, I know what they did. You and I spoke about it. It's pretty horrible. I know you spoke to. But what's your thoughts now? Here you are, Joe Sanchez, former NYPD. You know about the homicide on the Lower East Side, and yet you meet the killers, cop killers, and then you have dialogue with them. How are you able to handle that? Talking to and by the way, I think you knew a couple of those cops that got killed personally.
Yes. Well, you can't take it personal. I mean, listen, you got to deal with these inmates. Officers get in trouble when they take it personal, when they get a complaint from the inmates, because inmates lie. Don't take it personal. If they give you a complaint, a grievance, just don't worry about it. But you don't take it personal. And I know officers that were fired because they took it personal.
Yes, you do.
Took getting these inmates and duking it out with them, lost the fight and lost their jobs.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yep.
You can't take it personal.
Well, that shows the inner strength with you. I do have a question that came over the 914 number, but they didn't leave their name. It's something I was going to talk about anyway from my experience in correction. The question to you, Joe, is what's your thoughts on the Jeffrey Epstein suicide?
Wow. First of all, a lot of
I'm going to give my thoughts after you give yours.
This is the federal prison right there, okay, jail. and this guy tried to take his own life a week before, and you don't watch him, and you have, from what I read and heard, you have another individual there who's not a correction officer assisting because they can't hire it anymore. And it's now whether I feel that he committed suicide. My opinion, yeah, he did it. He did it. It's a way.
Yep.
He did. That's my opinion. Okay, but it should have never happened. They should have been watching this guy. It's unbelievable. I mean, this is a federal prison. It could have happened in a state prison also, but it's.
Yeah, but you know, Joe. But you see, here's how I look at it. Pretty similar to you, but a little sort of angle of mine. Yeah, it was suicide. I said that. I put that on Twitter right away. Listen, not Hillary Clinton. No conspiracy theories. He killed himself because of the negligence, I said, of the staff. And Joe, I got to tell you this. Maybe you don't know. The guys that work at MCC, they don't go to. See, I went to a New York City Correction Academy. You went to the state Correction Academy. They don't have an academy, Joe. They hire you on a resume. You know, if you have a peace officer background, it could be anything, a private housing development, and then they hire you, and then they send you 4 to 6 weeks at the John Jay College to learn the law, but that's it. So you don't have professional correction officers working there.
It's ridiculous. As a correction officer, we were allowed to have a small knife just in case. When I was checking a cell and I see a guy hanging there, I would go back and cut him down.
I've done that. I've done that. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it's this man.
And they're not professional. Joe, they were not professional.
Committed suicide.
They were not professional people working there, and they had two guys. One was an officer, like you said. One was a civilian in some kind of capacity. But hey, even on the NYPD, you take turns sleeping. I mean, let's be realistic. Both of you guys don't go to sleep. But my bigger question than all of that is, yes, they were not professional. They didn't go to a bona fide correction academy, at least unless they've changed.
Right.
And they're not like the federal prison. See, folks, this is a detention house. It's a trial institution. It's not like a federal prison, like where, say, Bernie Kerik went to. I have to use that. Or Mario Biaggi, the congressman. That is a federal prison. This is the detention house trial facility. It does come under the Department of Justice, Bureau of Prisons, Federal Bureau of Prisons, but they're not professional. If you have two guys, but my bigger question, Joe, with that is, who gave the authorization to, but you just said it, he attempted suicide already, so
somebody spoke to the warden.
Who?
It was the warden's job.
But but for my time, it had to be a commitment from the judge, and then the warden abides. But I don't know if the warden has that discretion to do that. Maybe they do, Joe.
The guy's a billionaire. Gets fancy lawyers to speak up for him. They reached out to somebody. All right.
Yes.
And somebody gave the A-OK to get him off suicide watch.
Very good.
Ridiculous.
Very good.
That's what happened. That's what happened.
That's what my theory is. Somebody made a connection financially. Take him off the sewer. We don't have to do it. He'll do it on his own. Right. See, somebody. I had a couple. I was doing some private investigation work with some high-profile attorneys. Some guys were going to prison, and these are white-collar jobs, white-collar crimes, and they were petrified. Should they work out? Should they go on steroids? Should they take up jiu-jitsu? The whole bagilla, So, so they would, and I was saying, look, this is federal jail. I said, look, let me tell you, federal jail compared to state prison where you work, Joe, is a country club compared to Sing Sing or up there, Attica especially. Federal, you walk around with civilian clothes. I said, you will adopt, because you're going to be up there with guys that white-collar criminals. They're not going to be the guys in the street that you and I dealt with, Joe. And I tell them that. So you're going to be able to look at Bernie Madoff. He's adapting to it, especially if you have the money. This guy had the money. If you think you could hire bodyguards in jail, people don't know that. You could hire a bodyguard. You know that. You have enough money, and you guys,
you pay them with commissary.
Exactly right. Pay them with commissary.
That's it.
Yeah, or the other thing, go deeper.
On the outside.
On the outside. You want to say that? The family gets it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say if I was hired to talk to this guy, Jeffrey Epstein, I'd say, listen, you could handle it. Your billions of dollars, you can get the bodyguards, and you could also appeal your cases. You never know. 5 years from now, you might get, or even closer, you might be able to beat it, but they're frightened, they're scared, and who knows, but I totally agree with your analysis, Joe, that he commits suicide. He'll come out. Negligence on them. Negligence big time, so.
Yeah. Now, if I might digress, I want to give a shout out to my friend Al Torado. Al Torado was a super cop in the 2.5 and in the 2.4 with his partner, Bobby Pridgeon. God bless Bobby Pridgeon's soul. And I work with Freddie Roman, Freddie Roman was my partner in the 2.5 also. Herman Velez in the 3.0. Charlie Whitfield, God bless his soul, has passed.
Wow.
Susan Medici, whom I work with. And I just want to give a shout out. And for those that I forget, I work with good cops. I'm telling you, these guys were great.
Yeah.
Great. And I just want to also remind you that I have more friends now than I ever had when I was a cop. And I've never met many of them, especially also military guys. I got guys on my contact list who email me, bought my books, have donated when we did the event for the Cordillo for Ivan Negron and Victor Padilla.
Yes.
And Bo Beetle donated.
Yes.
I was so glad. I mean, these guys weren't cheap, okay? And one of the guys in the 2.5 also, Lieutenant Raymond Flores, he gave a nice amount of money to help us with this event. And
nice.
And those that didn't get for whatever reason, it doesn't matter.
But, some guys, they're not looking for the credit, It doesn't matter, like you said. They just do the right thing, and I'm glad you're giving them a shout out.
Definitely. And like I said, I got more friends now. More friends now than I can ever have. Let me see something here. I remember. Raymond Flores. Yeah, he was a lieutenant in the 2.5. Very generous guy, just like Bo was. And.
Wow.
Listen, not for nothing, but I like to share. And if I may digress again, Jack Coughlin, retired detective, he sent you something in regards to the hip and GI.
Jack Conklin, if you're listening, Jack, you're smothering me with that stuff. We're trying, with the hip and Blue Cross, the other things, we're trying. We're doing the best we can. We know they were all gonifs, as they say in Sicilian, the crooks.
But he's doing something good.
Jack does a great job. He's with he's a treasurer with which I'm a member of, the Retired Superior Officers Association. But Jack, we can't talk about that. We got to talk about Joe Sanchez. We'll talk about that. How we're being ripped off on Blue Cross and in Wall Street.
But he's doing something good. He's
dynamite guy, great guy. By the way, we're talking about a retired detective sergeant.
Right.
Thank you for giving Jack a plug as well, or getting me or reminding me. I got another call for I couldn't be for the both of us. It's back to Jeffrey Epstein. They want to know what's our thoughts. Why it took 2 hours to find that he committed suicide. Your thoughts?
They fell asleep.
Exactly.
You said simple. Yeah.
Very simple.
My dear Watson, elementary.
Elementary, my dear Watson. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes. They were sleeping. Vinny from Belmore. Vinny from Belmore, they were sleeping, They're not.
Cooping.
They fell asleep. But here's the thing. Take turns. The two guys are both going to go to sleep. Somebody got to watch this guy,
No, listen, I work from home security. And my job was to check on the security guards all over the city. And in the pound on 40-something Street, 40 or whatever it was, on 45th Street, when they impound the cars. And they had, the home security had guards there, something, 3 of them. Okay? 1 o'clock, they close up. I would go over there and sign their books,
Correct.
Give them a C, whatever. And I find all of them asleep.
I know.
Asleep. And I have to, hey, wake. And I tell them, listen. if you're sleepy, break it up. You can't. It's embarrassing. When people go trying to get their car. They're knocking at they see these security guys asleep, and they're knocking on the window.
I know that. Imagine that. I have to tell a story, folks, and I don't care because everybody's probably gone now. I'm talking about over half a century ago. Yeah, I'm that old, and Joe, he's a little younger, not a little, I think 10 years. But either way, 3 o'clock in the morning, I got to make 2 callers in Williamsburg. Before the 9-0, where I think you said you worked, there was the 8-7 precinct. Did you remember the 8-7? If you heard of it, they did that movie. So the sergeant picks me up. He drops me off with the two prisoners in front of the 8-7. Joe, the door's locked. The door's locked. It's next to Long Island Queens Express. I'm knocking on the door with my nightstick, folks, believe it or not, in those days, right? Mm-hmm. And then guy comes, says, I'm going to tell the story. What do I care? I'm going to put it in the book. Guy comes, says, to the door in the skivvies. What the hell are you doing? I said, I'm doing my job. What, are you crazy? It's 3 in the morning? What's not yelling at me? Finally, he's going to book my guys. And with Joe, we're going nose to nose. So I was very close, but for the course of the 2 inmates, it would be embarrassing if I did a little something with this guy, another cop. Goes into the closet, goes behind the desk. Joe, he puts his shirt on because he's going to book them. He's got lieutenant bars on. And I said, oh, my God, and then I sort of backed off and apologized. But anyway, but that's the way the job was. The policing was, it's a quiet precinct. Nothing happened in those days in the 8-7. Right. And that was, hate to say these folks, I'm talking out of school, but hey, but to answer your question, Vinny from Belmore and Joe Sanchez agrees, they fell asleep. They went to sleep.
They fell asleep. Hey, by the way, I went to see Steven Spielberg, right?
I'm sorry, you did the what, Joe?
Steven Spielberg.
I want to mention that. Yeah. By the way, folks, Joe's books and Joe's life story is so interesting that Steven Spielberg, he's today's new Hollywood era top Hollywood producers and director Steven Spielberg had brought you in, put you in the hotel, set you up, and
they're filming the new West Side Story. The new West Side Story is being filmed now in New York.
The new West Side. Did they change the complexion of the people in it?
Well, because the Latinos now are actually Latinos. Back then in 1961, the movie...
They were gringos.
They were gringos. The only one...
Rita, our girlfriend Rita.
Yeah, Rita Moreno. They even made her look darker. She was upset because of that, to make her... So there were a lot of issues. So Spielberg went to Puerto Rico to talk to at the university, talk to the students of what their opinion would be or was in regards to how he's making the new movie.
Right.
So I was at a few years ago at the Opera House film documentary. I was invited, flown to New York because I lived across the street from the Amsterdam Project where the Lincoln Center stands now.
Right.
We were forced to move. So they brought me in. They filmed me, and then they showed photos of my family and myself, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm in that. I'm in that film. So then Spielberg's people and Spielberg heard that they've got a guy named Joe Sanchez, a former cop, et cetera, et cetera. So he says, bring him in. I want him to speak to my actors. All right.
Right.
So they flew me to New York. I brought him my book. I brought Rita Moreno my book. I signed it. She wasn't there at it, but I left it. But I brought Spielberg a copy of True Blue, A Tale of the Enemy Within. He thanked me. I came in, and then he sat with the rest, the audience. I was one of 3. There was 3 of us on a panel. One was Mike Meehan, Irish guy that lived in the neighborhood on 62nd Street in Amsterdam, and a Puerto Rican lady in her 70s who also lived in at that time when they were making the West Side Story. But anyway, I got an opportunity, but they introduced me and they told them exactly where I was when I came from Puerto Rico, Vietnam, the whole shebang. Because the host, when I first saw him, when I came in, I said, my name is Joe Sanchez. I know everything about you, Joe. I didn't realize that he was going to tell the crew, the actors, about my life. And these people were very nice. Came over to me and thanked me for coming in. I spoke for about an hour or so.
Wow.
And Spielberg came over to me, and he thanked me once again, Joe, for coming in. And I said, well, you got my book. And all he said to me was, sounds like another adventure, Joe. you know, and I left it like that. But yeah, he invited me to come in and participate with this and educate these young actors. They're in their 20s. The new Maria's only 17, 18 years old.
Yeah.
Colombian American girl, and yes, the sharks are actually Latino actors.
Right.
And of course, the Jets are white actors.
Right.
And the movie will be coming out December 18th of 2020. Next, not this December, the following. So it's a great opportunity to meet Spielberg because there's no way I would have been able to give him my book. He gets thousands. It would have gone in the garbage. So the man invited me, okay, to come in and speak to his actors, and I felt very honored that he invited me.
So you were sort of like a consultant, pretty much, with the help of
yes.
He
wanted me to talk, tell him what I knew as far as growing up, my family, Vietnam. Tell him what you know, Joe, you know, and tell him what you know about teenage gangs in those days.
Correct.
And I did. And I appreciate that he invited me, you know, and he's got my book. Like I said, he said, sounds like another adventure, Joe, whatever that means.
Well, you got these books now. Let's talk about your books. You got the two books that I mentioned, and what are the I missed two books, Joe. Let's talk about the trilogy about your. Well,
Latin Blues starts as when I was a rookie in Brooklyn, and I mentioned the killing of Glover and Reddy is in there, okay? And what my partner and I, Louis Herrera, God bless his soul, we had to go through in the 9/0. And in the 9/0, the pressure we were under because, like I told them both, that they thought we were field associates. I wasn't no field associate. I just want to be left alone. Let me make out my collars and leave me alone. But see, Louis had worked out of the academy. What happened was Louis undercover with the Castro regime. In other words, they put him to work against the people that were anti-Castro. But Louis had just come from as a young man from Cuba, so he decided to get me off of this detail.
Joe, didn't Lou come out of the academy and they put him working undercover with the Cubano issue, like you just mentioned? Was that the Lou? Lou, he came out of the academy. He never put a uniform on. Did work undercover with the involved with the Castro thing that was going on. What was it? Oh, no. I'm thinking of the FALN. I know one of the guys.
No.
I'm thinking of. This was the anti-Castro from. Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
so
yes.
My partner said, "No, put me in the back." We became partners, and of course, they thought we were IAD field associates.
Right.
You know, but so that's how we start. We start Latin Blue with an actual rape case where we caught the rapists.
Wow.
That's how we start the book, and where that book ends, we start Red Herring. You know, what I call police corruption in Washington Heights.
Right.
And where Red Herring ends starts Yellow Street, because we have to finish off these characters.
Yep.
But in my books, let me tell you about my book. In my books, I talk about the good female cops that I work with.
Yeah.
The Irish cops that I work with, good cops. The black cops that I work with, the Italian cops. I'm not one of these guys that's very cliquish and just talk about my team. No, I mention as many cops that I work with as I could in that book. I give them credit. It's not about Joe Sanchez. I tell their stories. Okay? It's not about me. No, it doesn't work that way. I give my female partner, Susan Medici, credit. Okay?
Right.
So that we got involved in 2 different shootings incidents. And I'll be honest with you, if she had been working with me, she would have been involved in these shootings incidents. I was the magnet. I was the arrest machine. Things just happened. It just happened. She would have never seen a shooting incident if she had been work with. If she hadn't worked with me, that's the way it was. My partner Herman Valdez, when we split up for a little while, he couldn't wait to get back. I said, "I'm working with Susie now." He said, "Joe, I'm bored. I got to get back to work with you." Herman was a great partner. He loved working with me. Smart guy, very articulate.
You have them in your book, right? All these names.
I have him in my book. He retired as a NYPD helicopter pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I talk about other officers I work with. I give them all credit. Tommy Matovich, Irish guy. What a beautiful guy. I still love that guy. You know, he's still around. So I give credit to a lot of the officers that I work with. You know, like I said, I love that job. I don't knock the job. I might knock things I didn't like.
Yeah.
Okay, but I never heard a cop because I minded my own business. Yeah. But I let them know, don't you do this near me, you know?
Right.
But I never heard. But back then they thought that I hurt. I didn't hurt any cop.
Right.
I did. Okay. All I wanted to do was be a good cop since I was a kid. Since the time I got locked up at 11 years old, I said I want to be a cop one day. I want to be the good guy.
Wow.
Unfortunately, it didn't go the way I wanted to. But again, I do it the same way because I learned a lot being a correction officer and getting my VA, pension. I love it. It helps me a lot. And I don't care who hears me. I earned it. I don't pay taxes because I get 100% from my home. I get all benefits, dental, you name it. My wife has beautiful benefits. Okay, I would have never got that if I had.
If you would have stayed on the job. Well, some guys had issues like you, and they did benefit, and that they would never be involved in unless they left the job before, say, their time was up on the job. Yes, I could see that. Joe, we got Joe, 3 minutes left. Just talk about how they can get your books, the listening audience.
Yeah, well, I've been doing it for 2006. So
yes.
A lot of the books are either older copies or Kindle. They can read my books in Kindle.
Oh, very good.
They can read it on Kindle. Okay, or they can. Matter of fact, I had it. My publisher just sent, I think it was 5 books the other day. He's making more copies. Usually I have books, about 20 books I'm expecting because people will email me and say, Joe, I want a signed copy. And I do it on my own. Or they can get it on Amazon.
Oh, great.
On Amazon.
Before I go, folks, I just wanted to give myself a plug. Monday, I'm on the podcast at streetwisepro.com at Strong Island TV at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm interviewing Lane Dalphin. We all have nightmares, Joe. She's on a great analysis. She's seen on all the talk shows, and she's a dream analysis.
Clairvoyant. You and I have this clairvoyant.
Yes, we do. We do. I know. I'm going to ask her that. Yes, we're going to ask her because we do. We dream, and she'll interpret it. And you and I are similar. It's things that we dream. Things actually materialize what we dream about. But anyway, she's on my show on streetwisepro.com. She'll be on Facebook, and that night she'll be on YouTube, or we'll both be on streetwisepro.com. And I'm going to ask her, about you see things and they materialize. That's my question.